Alright, nerds. Today, you'll be learning about interactive media.
What is this class even about?
Haha, great question. Interactive media covers a wide range of topics in the field. Even if you just want to make video games, it's still applicable and teaches a lot of important information. When you first start the class, be prepared to get info dumped. Interactive media is media, but interactive. The teacher's name is Ben, and there are TAs too. Slack is Discord, but bad. The office hours are during your other classes on Monday and Wednesday. There's a weekly quiz on the weekend. And finally, AI can do a lot, but it kinda sucks at certain things. Such as citing. Only my most favorite topic. And this week you learn the same things you've heard since 7th grade. Cite your sources, and use good sources. Pretty simple, if you paid attention in high school. The same goes for the next topic. Critique and defense of ideas. This week reminded me so much of my old English class I actually got sick and missed the class. The concepts are simple at least. When defending, be descriptive and support your ideas with evidence. When critiquing, be specific in what works, what doesn't, and why. Speaking of creating ideas, if you want to share them at all, you're going to have to deal with the law. Copyright law is complicated. There are a lot of terms and symbols. I don't bother memorizing them. Always check if you have the right to use something before putting it in your work. We'll pause here right at the end of week 4. Those first few topics gave me a bad idea of the class. I felt like we were just going over stuff I already knew. We hadn't even made anything, except for a persuasive essay, but that doesn't count. Luckily, the topics got progressively more interesting as the semester went on. After 4 weeks of being in English class, we finally arrive at some interesting stuff. Images can be represented in 2 ways, a grid of colors or a series of mathematical shapes. Each have their pros and cons, as well as their own file types. It felt like we spent a lot of time on those files. Now that we know what images are, we can use them with our words. However, it needs to look good by selecting a typeface, a color palette, spacing, alignment, iconography. There are a lot of ways to express ideas, but the goal is to use those options as tools for whatever you want the user to feel or do. But how do you know what looks good without making a whole project? That's where prototyping comes in. The process consists of several degrees of planning until you get a semi-functional prototype. This lets you easily change the many factors in your project before putting in a whole load of work. Once you know you can actually make stuff, you'll have to make sure everyone can experience it. A lot of people have visual, auditory, or mechanical disabilities, or just different skill sets. It's a good practice to design interactive media so that anyone can use it, to reach the highest number of people. At this point of the semester, I was thinking,
Well, sure, there's a couple cool topics, but this is really pretty abstract, boring stuff.
Then, it was as if my professor had heard the very thoughts that I was thinking in my head and said,
free now from
audio was the first topic that I had hardly any previous knowledge about, so I got really invested. We learned that audio is a lot like images with different balances of quality and size. We also learned about the different types of audio, including music, sound effects, ambience, narration, and dialogue. Video is also very similar to images. In fact, it's essentially just many images played after a certain amount of time. This week was probably my favorite. We were assigned to create a video for some pre-recorded narration, and I really enjoyed the creative freedom this gave me. After learning about audio and video, we learned how to keep things interesting. Audio can be interactive, responding to players' actions. Video can include many different cuts and edits. Presentations can tell stories to keep their audience invested. All of these things can be incorporated into different mediums to make whatever you create more interesting. During the final week of class, we took a step back from everything. We discussed what it really means to be in the game design industry and took a look at some of the issues in the modern day workplace, such as diversity and workers' rights. There were also several alumni interviews, which provided insight from present-day game developers. And that's the gist of everything we learned. However, these were only the tools that were given to us. There were several big projects that challenged us to use these tools to make something cool. The first 2 of these were group projects, and the last one was individual. The first of these projects was a group paper. If you hate writing papers, you'll hate this even more. It was a real struggle trying to keep everyone's work cohesive, and not overreach or over-criticize others' work. Regardless, it was cool having everyone work on a separate section and having a big long paper in the end. The second project was a website prototype. It was basically making a website about a topic from the previous project, but with several planning phases before the final product. The planning upon planning was a little tedious, but helped me learn Photoshop, and we got a chance to apply some of the design ideas we learned from class. The final project was to make a video about everything we had learned from the semester. It was very fun challenging myself to make several minutes of interesting content. I had to use aspects of everything we had learned, ironically, to talk about what we had... Wait. I'm the final... And that is the entire class. Interactive media While some of it was more enjoyable than others, it gave numerous important lessons and experiences for future projects. Since just about everything in this major, and in the industry, is done as groups, this class gave me a safe space to start learning how to work with other people. Here, I use these things, and you should know about them. Remember the part about copyright? Yeah, that's what this is for. Bye.